Good morning. You find me up the hill where I have just been wood processing, hence why I am not looking at my glamorous best this morning, as I have got into the habit of doing without ready access to a vehicle. Will's not here today and the Brumbies are still not functioning, although we are working on that gradually. I've come up on foot. This is the wood that I have processed. I work on the principle of going through usually 2 batteries. I've gone through 1.5, but it's sort of started to drizzle, and 1.5 is plenty of battery to have got through. My plan is, as the bay that we're currently extracting wood from for the fire has probably got about another week left to go on it, I'm going to come up every day and do 1 battery's worth of wood processing to top up the pile, and then hopefully by the time that bay is emptied, I will have a little bit of a head start on the wood processing project. When Will gets back later today, I may actually take this pile down the hill and store it in the wood store ready for processing, and then continue building up the pile up here until I have access to Will's car again later in the week. Nevertheless, whether I do that or not, that's not important. What is important is me just keeping you up to date with what's happening. I did do a huge amount of intense wood processing before we went away to the UK, and so I had a really nice welcome break from this job. It's not to say that the job is horrible. It's really nice up here in the backwoods. It's peaceful. It's sort of relaxing to be in. It's beautiful, and all those good things. Words fail me. All those good things, but it is hard work and it's dirty work, and the trees don't always play nicely. It's such a tangled forest, it's quite easy for trees to get all tangled up on their way down to the ground. So it can be frustrating, and certainly without a car it is quite intense getting up here carrying all this equipment. I'm not even that far up the hill. If I shift, sort of our lawn starts down there, and if I turn around, the top of the hill is up there, so I'm probably about halfway, and whilst it might not look like much, that is steeper than you might think. Anyway, that's that done for this morning. I'm now going to go and put my equipment back and tidy up, and then move on with the rest of my projects for today. Another day, another update. I thought I'd show you what I discovered. You may recall that I've been having trouble with wombats trying to infiltrate the garden, and I speculated that they may be heading for this wombat burrow, except I got my rake out and poked it in there, only to discover it's actually a very, very shallow little cave more than anything, and unless it's the world's smallest wombat, there is not one in there, and couldn't be. So wherever it was trying to get in the garden, it wasn't to make for that burrow. And in other news, you can see that I have tried to shore it up even more. I have discovered that 2 things are apparently true. Number 1, they don't really like the smell of blood, fish and bone, which I happen to have in the form of citrus fertilizer, and as expensive as it is, I have been pouring some on. Not every night, I did it about 3 nights ago. So far so good. However, there is also another solution which is quite interesting, and that is essentially a wombat flap, rather akin to a cat flap or a dog flap. It is essentially something you usually make. It is possible to find one example that you can buy, as far as I can see, but basically it's a metal frame with a metal flap, which is sort of something a wombat can easily push, but not something necessarily a wallaby would be interested in pushing. And the main problem I have isn't necessarily, as I had mentioned previously, with the wombats. It's with the gaps they leave in the fence, which then allow other animals in, which are problematic in terms of eating the garden plants. So for the time being, I'm going to carry on with the blood, fish and bone, which does seem to be working. But down the line, when we're looking at replacing this very, very temporary structure with something a bit more permanent, I might consider putting in a wombat flap actually. So it's a problem which has been sort of getting on my nerves a bit and kind of causing me to be a bit down in the dumps. However, fortunately, for the sake of my garden, it does seem as if there are solutions, which is great. Anyway, I'm off the hill to do some wood processing. Good afternoon. As you can possibly tell, I'm catching up with you at a slightly different place today because Will and I are spending a couple of nights at the seaside. We come here from time to time, Will more so than me because he usually presents his radio show from one of the local towns to here. But I'm treating myself to a couple of nights, which would be nice. And so I thought I'd just quickly catch up on a few things. We had a lovely day today. We did quite a lot of chores in town, buying materials for completing quite a lot of projects, small little projects around the property, and also thinking about our next projects which we'll buy with our next fortnight's salaries. So anyway, quite a lot of stuff is going to be happening in the next few days, weeks, and hopefully months. Not massive stuff, we're not like bulldozing down the house and building a new house, but just like these little itty bitty projects which kind of drive things forward a little bit. And the first thing we'll be doing on Sunday, hopefully, is replacing the engine in the Brumby. We've basically got two Brumbies, little tiny utes. One of the engine works in the car that doesn't, and the engine in the car that does work doesn't work. So we're going to swap the engines over and hopefully have a running Brumby again. And the good thing about that is that that's the car that I use for running around on the property doing wood processing when I can. But recently I've had to use Will's car, which has been difficult in terms of having access to it. So anyway, that's Sunday, and then we've got other bits and pieces to take on, other projects forward in the garden. As I say though, I will chat about it with you maybe at the time or closer to the time and keep you updated with what we're doing to try and move the property forward, and in some cases sort of keep it standing still. But I'm off for a stroll along the beach, and you're welcome to join me for a little bit should you wish.